Hi, and welcome to Roots by Samba Tree. Here's where we discuss important health topics for you and the whole family. Now, today we're going to discuss the 5 reasons why Black folks oftentimes wait until the last minute to go visit the doctor. Now, this may not all apply to you, but I guarantee you it's probably some of these. Now, don't worry, nobody's going to beat you up here because, believe it or not, you should be listening to those inner instincts. But we're going to go through this list here, and we're just going to take it step by step. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. So number 1, what does it say here? Number 1 is historical and ongoing mistrust of the medical system. Well, I think that's goes without saying. There's a whole line of different instances of the medical industry of mistreating Black folks. I mean, not just here in the States, but also abroad as well, all throughout the continent. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, in the Caribbean, of the many cases that I've heard where shots were given and they just kept giving them to the locals and didn't even care, of the outcomes and all of that. So we have we have acres and acres of books of cases where the medical industry has done us wrong, and so number 1, don't let anybody out here make you feel some kind of way because you're hesitant of going to the doctors or, just based off of the mistrust thing, because, there's a lot that has to be overcome on that. And that's why for me, I was a bit surprised at the turnout of the thing that happened a few years ago and how readily numbers of people that look like me were willing to, to go forth in that. I got to talk like this on YouTube, but yeah, but one of the things I did see is how you had people who were pushing it. They were trying to make others who were a little hesitant feel some kind of way because, wait a minute, you should just jump on this, and let me just say this, even when you have people who look like us wearing those white coats, it doesn't necessarily mean that they should be trusted because at the end of the day, a lot of these individuals are being paid by the same people who done us wrong for years and years and years. So, and they're just going to, unfortunately, they're going to just repeat what these same people have told them, to do, and so, yeah, so being hesitant based off of the historical precedents that have been set, it's perfectly normal, but that's one reason. I'll say that's reason number 1. Let's go to reason number 2, financial barriers. Well, yeah, I mean, financial barriers. I mean, the cost of medical care is constantly going up. I mean, just for a few pills, you're talking hundreds of dollars depending on what you're taking. And that's something that, unfortunately, if you don't have the right insurance, it's just not going to be affordable for you, and so you end up having to not, going to the doctors, and unfortunately for people who look like us, we tend to be the ones that suffer the most because of that. So financial barriers, that's definitely one. That's another reason too. Number 3 would be cultural norms around strength and endurance. Now this one, if you don't mind, I'm going to shift my eyes here to the screen here and I'm going to read this one to you because this one is very important. Okay. And it says there's a strong cultural belief in resilience, which can sometimes lead to individuals to delay seeking help until a condition becomes severe under the assumption that they can, quote, tough it out, or that it is not serious enough to warrant medical attention. Now, you'll find people, regardless of color or whatever, oftentimes that will take that approach, but especially us. We have developed because of the system and society and all of that. There's a resilience that we have where, listen, I'm going to keep going to work, even though I'm limping, or, even though my leg hurt or whatever, I'm gonna keep on going, and we have learned that, a lot of us have learned that from our parents. And even though in many ways that may be admirable to tough it out, you're still doing your body a lot of damage. And that's really not good. Now, sometimes you do have to tough it out, but if you have a will to want to live a long life, like I think most people do, that's not the best thing to do, and I think there's a wealth of different avenues that you can go to get those things checked out without feeling like, oh, I gotta depend on these doctors and all of this stuff, but you don't have to tough it out. Okay. We ain't in the cotton fields no more. Okay. You is free. Okay. You is free. You don't have to look, the war is over. Okay. Look, the war, the Civil War is over. Okay. Let's celebrate Juneteenth. Okay. Let me be the last soldier to come to you and tell you that the war is over. Okay. You don't have to suffer in the cotton fields no more. Okay. Massa ain't out there, telling you, are you still working? No, you ain't got to do that. Okay. And I know that some of y'all, your bosses may be like that. Okay. They may try to take that position and try to say, you better work, you better show up. Well, that kind of thing. I get that too. But, listen, you don't have to suffer like that. You don't have to tough it out. And we're going to give some solutions at the end of this. Okay. All right. Limited access to health care. Well, that kind of ties along with number 2, but I think this one is a little bit different in that, depending on where you live, even though there may be clinics nearby, they may be kind of third rate kind of clinics that will address some things. But, you go there and, the person at the front, they got an attitude. The doctor got an attitude. How many of y'all have been into a doctor's office and you're telling them, hey, listen, this is what I'm dealing with or whatever, and the doctor's not even looking at you. They're already writing a prescription. I've experienced that. I've seen that. And so that's what I would consider like a third rate and beyond, kind of healthcare. And so typically, if you want something that is a lot better than that, you're going to have to drive quite a ways, to the nicer communities where those types of doctors are, and facilities are aplenty. And so that's another reason why people just say, you know what, bump that. I'm just not going to go. And then finally, this is a big one, fear of diagnosis. In other words, fear of the unknown. If you're dealing with something, regardless of what it is, all of a sudden, if it's something that, it's like, wow, I haven't felt that before, or I haven't felt this before, but you don't tell anybody. And so you just keep enduring it, knowing full well that, I need to go check this out. But you don't, because you're afraid that the doctor is going to tell you it's cancer, or the doctor is going to tell you it's something else, something very severe. So you just, you don't want to know. And so you just keep putting it off. We're all guilty of that. Okay. So you're in good company here, and we're going to work this out together. Okay. But that's another one that's, I think it's pretty major, it's just not knowing and just being fearful. And then, then you go on your phone and, you go on Google or whatever, and you Google it up. Maybe it's a headache you've been having for the past few days. And then, Google is going to tell you, well, you got cancer. WebMD, man, I'm telling you, is of the devil. You hear what I'm telling you? I mean, everything, anything at all. You type in there and you saying, I got a cramp in my neck. Well, it's probably tuberculosis, and you're going to need to get that checked out. Or it's probably just a slight case of ADHD. They're going to go off to the extreme, man. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of these old sneak Google searches that I know y'all be doing, I do them sometimes too. So we in good company here. You know what I'm saying? So I've learned to say, you know what, bump that. I ain't going to even do these searches. Maybe I'll refine my search a little bit. But yeah, not knowing, that's another thing. But that's not really a good reason why you shouldn't get checked out. Okay, so what you see on the screen is the definition of a naturopathic doctor. Okay, and so we're not going to read the whole thing, of course. You can read if you want. You can pause the screen, but I'm just going to read the first paragraph so you know what a naturopathic doctor is. Okay, naturopathic doctors are educated and trained in accredited naturopathic medical colleges. They diagnose, prevent, and treat acute and chronic illnesses to restore and establish optimum health by supporting the person's inherent self-healing process rather than suppressing symptoms, like, aspirin and all these other pharmaceuticals that are out there. Naturopathic doctors work to identify underlying causes of illnesses and develop personalized treatment plans to address them. Their therapeutic order identifies the natural order in which all therapy should be applied to provide the greatest benefit with the least potential for damage. And so naturopathic doctors, I almost want to guarantee you that regardless of what state you're in, and I don't know if you're looking at this from a different country, you can look this up too. Naturopathic doctors. The thing I like about naturopathic doctors is, like they just said, and we have personal experience, and I'll just share a little bit of that, is that, like the paragraph just said, they don't lean really heavily on the pharmaceuticals. In fact, they try to stay away from them as far as they can. Typically what happens if it's your first time visiting a naturopathic doctor, what they're going to say is, listen, we need to get a whole picture of what we're dealing with. Okay. Depending on the doctor, they'll have a lot of the equipment and things there to kind of get a picture of what your present health situation is. But there are some cases where they may send you out to, a regular doctor to get certain tests done. And don't worry about it. All you're doing is going there and getting tests done. They're not treating you or anything like that. That's all they're doing. And so what they'll do is once they get all this information, now they got a whole blueprint of what they're dealing with, and they know what they're looking at. And so the first thing they're going to do is, like they said, what is the underlying cause? They're not reaching for a whole cabinet of pills and going to just throw it at you like a lot of these doctors do. Instead, what they're going to be leaning more towards are the more natural remedies, herbs and plants and things like that. And that's where they're going to lean heavily on that. And, of course, exercise and diet and that kind of thing. And these aren't people who went to a 2-year school and, just graduated and got a, certificate and that's it. No, these naturopathic doctors have to go to a fully accredited program, college and all of that to get the accreditation so that they can practice. So these are real doctors. These aren't, wannabe doctors. These are actual real doctors that know the balance between, natural medicines. And also, if they have to dip into some of the pharmaceuticals, they, in some cases I've heard they will, but, they're very, very light on that. And this is something I would really recommend. Now, what is the cons of that? If you want, is that they are, going to be a little bit on the pricier level, which, kind of as far as our list here, it may seem like it blows that out of the water, but you have to ask yourself, is your health worth it? Do you want to be healthy? And can you really put a price tag on that? And so that's something that you would have to work out, and maybe you can have a conversation with those naturopathic doctors and see if they have some kind of program or something special that they can offer. Don't just cancel them out just because of that. Okay. But I would definitely at least check them out. And, it's not, I feel when we went to the naturopathic doctor, it was very relaxing. I didn't feel, any kind of like hard pressure or anything like that at all. They took their time with you. And I'm going to say this, part of the reason I think they're like that, it depends on the naturopathic doctor. And that is be prepared to pay out of pocket. Okay. That's the other thing. All right. In some cases, your insurance will cover some of that. But I will tell you that a good portion of that will probably be out of pocket. Okay, so that's the other, like I know it's something, but again, you have to. It goes back to, is your health really worth it? You understand what I'm saying? Do you want to be in a situation where there's a higher chance where they're going to be talking down on you or just throwing a bunch of pills at you that have a bunch of side effects that are just going to keep you really addicted on their pharmaceuticals one after another, and or do you want to go into a situation where someone is actually taking a real genuine snapshot of your entire physiological thing that you got going on, and then looking for natural solutions to address whatever needs you may have. You understand what I'm saying? And so so that's something that ultimately you would need to weigh that out, sit down, talk with your family about that, your spouse or whatever, and then work out something. But at least make the phone call. Identify the naturopathic doctors in your area, and at least make the phone call and describe to them everything. Tell them what's going on, what you're feeling and all of that. And then let them know, hey, listen, that's a little pricey for me. Do you have any alternatives? At least make the phone call. Now as we have gone through these 1 through 5, all of these things are quite understandable, and between the history, that we have to deal with, and, the location of these places, and, it's really something. But it's good to know that there are some good alternatives out there. And the final thing I guess I would say is self-diagnosis is good to a point, but you never want to play around with certain things, especially if it's like pain in your chest, or, maybe there's something in your leg going on, or, you don't want to, if it's something, you don't want to prolong things. You know what I'm saying? The other advice I would give is, if you don't have a spouse, that you can be accountable to, at least find a very good friend that's good at staying in your grill. In other words, if you have been experiencing some things that are a little bit abnormal and has been going on for some time, allow someone to come into your life, a little bit closer, where you can tell them and say, hey, listen, I just want to be accountable to somebody. I've been feeling this weird pain in my chest. I haven't been feeling that in a while. I really don't want to go to the doctors because I'm afraid of what they're going to say and whatever, and at least have somebody in your life, whatever you want to, whatever you decide to do, don't do it by yourself. You know what I mean? You want to have someone around you that you can be accountable to, that's going to follow up and say, hey, listen, did you get that checked out? Or maybe, if they're a good enough friend, they may say, hey, listen, when I get home off of work, I'm going to look up some things for you, and then maybe we can take it step by step. You understand what I'm saying? But don't suffer in silence. You don't have to do that, And I tell myself that too. So we're in this together. This is a very important topic, and we're going to continue to talk about topics like this and others as it pertains to our health and our wellness. And in the near future, we're actually planning a podcast, so stay tuned for that. So thanks again for tuning in to Roots by Samba Tree. And by the way, if you haven't been to Samba Tree, check us out at sambatree.com. We have a whole lot of health and wellness items that are great for you and your family. Okay? So again, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe, because we got a lot more things coming at you. You guys take care, and I'll see you next time.